Hey, I'm Kelsey McEwen. Welcome to CTV Your Morning, the podcast. This week, we look at the importance behind telling your kids no, how it can help set boundaries and strengthen relationships. And we'll share our conversation with Julianne Moore about her new dark comedy, Sirens. Everyone loves it. And then we'll talk about what she loves about Canada. Thanks for joining us. And remember, you can start your day with us live weekdays on the TV from 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, 7 to 10 a.m. Atlantic. We're on CTV, CTV News Channel, and on your CTV News app. Getting laid off can feel like a punch to the gut. And let's face it, in today's job market, it's happening a lot. If you find yourself laid off one day, it may feel like everything is out of your control. But there is one thing you can do. You can control how you bounce back. Whether you're job hunting right away or taking some time to figure things out, career expert Angela Champ has the tips to help you move forward. Okay, so obviously a layoff can come as a surprise. Sometimes not, but in most cases, I feel like people are kind of caught off guard by this. So is there anything that you can do when you're just in your regular life to get prepared in case this does happen?
In this day and age, any industry, any profession can get laid off, so it's always good to be prepared. Some things that you can do is make sure that your skills are always upgraded. If your industry, for example, is heading towards adopting more artificial intelligence, AI, make sure you're taking some courses on that and that you're adding to those skills. Make sure that you're nurturing your network. Don't wait until you're laid off to reach out and meet people. Make sure that you're connecting with people, that people know that you're out there, what you do. Make sure that your finances are under control. Have a line of credit that you might be able to tap into if you need to, but those are some of the things that you can do to be resilient in case of a layoff.
Okay, so if you do get laid off, what is the first step, some of the first steps that you should take?
So the first thing you might want to do is just take time to process it. You may need to think about it or grieve through it, and that's okay to do that. The second thing you might want to do is check your employment agreement or your contract to see if you're entitled to any severance or payment in lieu of severance, in lieu of notice, and then apply for EI. Apply right away, because it may take some time for them to make a determination. What you want to do is take that worry about the financial stress off of it. And then make sure that you update your resume and your LinkedIn profile, if you have a LinkedIn, with your accomplishments, not just what your tasks, what your job duties were, but what did you achieve and accomplish in those tasks? Because that's what your next recruiter is going to be looking at.
Say you don't have time to reflect. I know a lot of Canadians watching living paycheck to paycheck, and that's just the reality for so many people across our beautiful country. What's your advice that you have in that situation if you can't take that time to reflect? What do you do?
That's right. So many people are paycheck to paycheck. Don't be afraid to take a job. It may not be in your profession and it may not be in your industry, but take something that takes a little bit of the financial pressure off and gives you time to look for that work.
That's okay to have in the loo in the meantime?
Absolutely, because it's sometimes easier to find a job when you're already working because you have exposure to other people and more of a network.
That's a great tip. How can you make sure that you are making the most of your job search? It can be really overwhelming to even start this. So how do you work smarter, not harder?
You want to for sure tap into your network, and that could be friends, family, neighbors, your former classmates, former colleagues, former bosses, anybody that you can think of. Make sure that they know that you're out there looking for work and ask them for referrals. Another thing is take advantage of your university. If you went to college or university, they often have alumni resources like a career center that you can tap into. Make sure you do. It doesn't matter how long ago you graduated. It could have been 30 years ago, you still have access to it. You're allowed because you're an alumni. And the other thing is people tend to apply. When people I coach, they say, you know, I've applied for 200 jobs and I haven't heard a single thing. That's not a great way to do it when you just apply randomly to anything indiscriminately. Instead, make a list of about 25 to 50 companies that are in your profession or your industry or that interest you, and be really strategic about how you apply to them. Look them up on LinkedIn. Who in your network works there or know somebody who works there? How can you get to know the recruiter? How do you connect with them? Send them a cover letter or a personalized email that highlights your skills. So be strategic in the number of people and the number of companies that you apply for.
Angela, we've got a couple moments left. Is there one last piece of advice you'd like to bestow upon people who might be finding themselves in this situation thinking, God, this feels really hard?
It definitely is really hard, and there are a lot of people in the same situation. Be prepared so that you can be resilient. Don't be afraid to reach out to your network. Make sure you're nurturing that, and care for your finances as well.
Yeah, okay, and good luck out there. If you are entering into this job search, career expert Angela Champ, thank you.
Thank you.
What if I said to you this morning, you could start putting more money into your savings account without cutting out all that fun in your life? Well, our next guest says all it takes are some small but smart changes to your spending habits. Money expert Robin Thompson is here with us this morning to walk us through. I love this, Robin. This is great.
Thanks.
This is what we want to hear. Okay, so before we start saving, we need to get a handle on the spending. That's step one, right? So what do we need to do?
Spending, right? It's one of those things that you can't save if you don't control your spending. And we take a look at where Canadians are when it comes to their spending. 60% of Canadians are having a really hard time budgeting. It's a new survey that came out. And what that shows us is also says that 69% of Canadians do not have a financial plan. But even with that, almost 70% have financial goals that they have set and that they're achieving. So although they are still achieving their financial goals, they're not doing it in a structured manner. So what that tells us is that they're not necessarily using all the data that's available for them within their statements, within their credit card statements, to be able to say, how do I squeeze as much money out of my budget to put as much money towards my goals and into savings? Because let's be honest, it feels like it's something else to do in our already busy lives.
Yeah, so let's have some tips. I mean, you know, sitting down and planning a budget, you know, that is one thing, but having to stick to that, that's a whole other ball game, right? So how can we make that process a little bit easier?
So one of the things we have to do is we actually have to eliminate the barriers to entry of this, because I think at first you're overwhelmed with, I have to save more, how do I take more money from my budget, where do I sort of look to save and kind of scrimp on it? So I think it's about understanding where your money is going. So take your statements, your bank statements, your credit card statements, and start to underline all the things that you're spending your money on. Where are those problem areas? Maybe it's entertainment, maybe it's personal care, maybe it's taxi services. Pick those areas and then start to break them down one at a time. Because when you do that and you're only focusing on one or two areas, you start to reduce that I have to do it all or none. You know, put a cap on it. How much am I going to spend in these areas? And then you really want to take a look at and understand what is the intentionality of this. The big thing I can say that people can do is really create that purchasing list. So what do you want to buy?
That was that pending purchasing list?
So what do you want to buy? And then put it in your note app or keep it in the back of your mind and wait 48 hours because that's going to take away that impulse purchasing habit that you have. And it's going to separate the need from the want. So you're actually able to see, okay, this is what I really want to be spending my money on and this is where there's value for me. It is a mindset shift to be able to say, what do I really want to achieve with my money? And then how can I take some steps to reduce some of the things that are not that valuable to add more money to my accounts, but also have fun?
Let's talk about that because what are some of the ways that we can cut back on spending in, you know, the everyday life?
So the first thing is really important. You want to go into your bank. What do you have as an automated payment? Also onto your phone. And I love automated things when it comes to savings, when it comes to spending. You know, do you really use that service? Can you negotiate that price? Can you bring that price down? So understand what those are. You want to take a look at your credit card benefits. So what can you achieve from your card? Maybe it's airline points. Maybe you can use it for shopping. Where can you take more with what you already have? This one's going to sound a little weird, but your local library. It used to be just for books. You can rent tools from the library.
Tools?
Tools, like tools.
No way.
Yeah, and you can rent board games. So like random things where you can try to find, you know, more money with things that you already have. Sometimes it's not about going out and finding new money. It's already money that you have within your reach or within things you can look at. If you can reduce your bank fees is also another big one.
Bank fees, yeah, for sure. Yeah. We often hear things like, stop buying coffee, like that's gonna save you so much money. So how do you balance that, you know, enjoying your life without spending too much?
I know, and we all want to enjoy our life because we work so hard for our money to enjoy our life. And you know, no one wants to become a millionaire by skipping their lattes every day. But it's those small compounding habits over time and those small incremental shifts that's really going to make that huge difference. So what I recommend that you do is actually take a look and understand, you know, what are the two things or one or two things in your life that you love to spend your money on? Is it going out with your friends? Is it going to concert? Is it going to travel? And if that's what it is, then be intentional about that spending and cut out in things in areas where it's not that great. Because it's that joy to dollar ratio.
Oh, I love
Where
that.
do you bring the most joy for the dollar that you're spending? And if you're not getting that joy and you're like, oh, that was an expense and I didn't really need that, spend it on the things that make you joyful.
Up next here on the podcast, Julianne Moore. She is one of Hollywood's best, and she puts on a fantastic performance in her new miniseries, Sirens. It's a dark comedy about women, power, and class. Anne-Marie had the chance to chat with Julianne about this binge-worthy show, her complex character, Michaela, and of course, why she loves Canada.
What is this place, and why does everyone look like an Easter egg? Is this still their property?
Michaela, she's my boss. I get to call her Kiki. It's a really special honor.
Hey! Whoa, is she holding a scepter?
Hi.
Hi, Julianne, congratulations on the show. The first thing I tell people when they ask about it is you're gonna love it, and you're gonna love all 5 episodes because you're great in it. The setting is amazing. The costumes are fantastic. It's smart, it's funny, it's interesting. There's plot twists. Those are all the things that stood out to me. What stood out to you?
Oh, I think the characters, you know, I love the writing and I love the characters in particular. I like the fact that they're all very different than how they first appear. And I think you're right. I think the plot kind of, you slowly get to learn what the real situation is with all of them. And it was really fascinating to me.
Keep on trying me. Listen up, everyone. It is Labor Day weekend. The Kells are entertaining every day. All details flow through me.
There's a transient person at the house asking for you. She's carrying hot garbage. She says she's your sister.
The show is really delicious, and it's not the, I was saying to a girlfriend, it's not the kind of show that you put on in the background while you clean the kitchen. You want to make sure you're watching it the whole time because you don't want to miss anything. You're right, it's a really smart show. There's lots of Greek mythology woven through it, you know, starting with the title, Sirens, and a lot of people mistakenly believe that sirens were mermaids, but they're actually half bird and half woman, and your character, Michaela, runs this bird sanctuary. One of the first things I noticed is how close you are with these like birds of prey, this peregrine falcon in particular. You're making a face. What was that like to get comfortable with?
I love them. I love birds, actually. I'm sort of a bird fanatic. And so for me, it was a wonderful opportunity to handle these beautiful birds. They were really extraordinary. There's a moment, I think it's in the 3rd episode, there was this a young bird. He was like a teenage kind of bird. And I had been talking to him and stroking him. And then I had my hand up, you know, in the middle of the scene, and he hopped onto my hand, and it actually made it into the series. And I was so thrilled. I was so thrilled. I can't believe I actually kept a straight face while it was happening because I was like, oh, look, I gained his trust. But it was wonderful to work with us. And that's one of the perks of our jobs. You know, we get to be in unusual situations.
Who's this? This is my sister.
I didn't know you existed.
Trust me, Simone and I are very close.
Then why didn't she tell me about you?
Where are your tattoos?
I removed them.
Our matching sister tattoo?
Kiki said it was trashy.
Michaela, the character that you play, is deliciously complicated. Yeah. She's warm and cold and brilliant and cutting and tender and cruel. Tell me about what you loved playing this character and playing this character.
I think I love that she is not what you initially assume. You know, I think that there are lots of there are ways to project upon her, especially in the first couple of episodes. But then you gradually learn who she is and how she's ended up in her situation. And I think that you gain a lot of empathy for her. So I was interested in playing somebody who was that complicated, but who eventually revealed themselves.
Let's talk about this cast because you star alongside Megan Fahey from The White Lotus, Millie Alcock from House of the Dragon. I said before I would have watched the show just for you, but watching the dynamic of these 3 women working together, can you describe a bit of that for us and what they pulled out of you and maybe what you gave to them?
I love them. I mean, Millie and Megan are just extraordinary in this, and they play a pair of very, very closely bonded sisters, and they actually started before I did. So by the time I got there, they were already a very strong team. And the interesting thing about Michaela is that she kind of comes in and she's divisive in a sense because she's very, very close to Millie's character, and then Megan's character Devin comes in and is really trying to figure it out. But I couldn't have asked for better scene partners. They're both tremendously talented actresses and lovely people. And it was easy for me because they were just so wonderfully alive and present.
Listen, I can't let you go without asking you about Canada. We're based here in Canada. I'm a big fan of the movie Chloe. You've said you're practically Canadian, and hey, we'll take you.
I love it.
But what is it that you would describe as uniquely Canadian?
Gosh, I don't know. You know, I love Toronto. I've been working there for years. One of my very first jobs was in Toronto in the mid 80s, and I've seen this incredible evolution in the city, actually, where it's just become so incredibly diverse and multicultural, and there's so much to do there, and the food is excellent, and it's just a lovely place to be, and it has a tremendous film community. I have to say, every time I've worked up there, I've worked with so many talented actors and so many great crew members, and I always feel very much at home there. So yeah, who knows? Maybe I'll end up in Toronto someday. Who knows?
Well, listen, we may not want to be the 51st state, but we will take hands down.
you.
Julianne Moore, thank you.
Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Listen, I don't know how you spent your weekend, but a lot of people spend their weekends getting their household chores done, things checked off the list, and laundry is usually right at the top.
Do you separate out your laundry into darks, whites, and colors when you do it? Because I feel like that was the way I was traditionally taught how to do laundry, but then when I started doing my laundry on my own, when I went to college and I lived in a dorm with like 100 girls and 10 washing machines, it was just not feasible to be doing 3 different loads of laundry when we're all trying to do laundry on a Sunday night. So I always just threw it all in together. And then I had roommates after college in kind of the same situation. And now I could do as many loads of laundry as I want, but it kind of just stuck that I throw it all in together and it's always been okay. So I'm wondering, am I the only one that's doing this and just have gotten lucky that I haven't ruined my clothes yet? Or have we all collectively decided that separating out darks, whites, and colors is not really necessary?
I don't know, Sarah. Maybe that's why your shirt is that weird color of gray.
Whoa, laundry judger.
Jackie.
You are
Saying.
Oh, it was lovely. It was fine.
I mean, if all your clothes are that color, then there's no problem.
I love how you think that's going to happen. I don't separate.
Anything?
Towels.
So you wash like dark sweatshirts and light sweatshirts at the same time?
Yeah. And guess what?
What?
Everything's okay.
All right, is it though?
Is it?
Is it
Is it okay?
Yeah.
So listen, I am team you.
Yeah.
I don't separate anything.
You don't separate anything?
No, because like when she said I could do as many loads of laundry as I want. Well, guess how many loads I want to
I
do?
know, that's the
Zero.
thing.
I don't want to do any. So I just
Look at her-
jam
look
it
at
all
her
together.
face. Look at her face.
I know.
So cute.
So there was one incident
Yeah.
because I've never been burned. I've never been burned by this. And then there was one incident
Yeah.
where Charlotte has this cute little like pearly white jacket.
Yeah.
That was just like a puffer coat. And I threw it in the wash and I also threw in Jack's sheets and his red Phoenix, like stuffy from Harry Potter. It was Fox, the stuffy. I threw it all in together. And then her coat turned this beautiful shade of pink. Want to see?
Oh, you have it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. She's sleeping.
Oh.
It's cute pink.
It's cute pink. We're at a ball game. It was a really intense moment of the game. We're all really focused, but she was sleeping on my lap, and it's the only picture I have of the coat. But it's this beautiful shade of pink now, so it was a beautiful, happy accident, and we all really love the coat. So even now, I'm like, you know what? Was it really that bad that I mixed it all together?
Guys, do you want to hear about my sorting? I would love to tell you about my sorting.
Okay, here we go.
Because you got to do fabrics too. So like towels are always separate. And you use different products for different things. Like,
What? No, you don't.
What do you mean?
What?
Well, you do like a white booster if you're doing the whites. I always do detergent and vinegar. Like that's every load. But then there's like towels are separate. And then for blacks, there's the blacks that you're gonna hang because you're gonna wash those in cool. And then there's the blacks that are like regular t-shirts
You wash
that you
in
throw in the
different.
dryer.
Sorry, you use different temperatures too?
Yes.
I just do cold.
I just press
Because of-
start.
Guys, I can't. My kid, that was one of the first jobs I gave my kids was sorting laundry because it was like by color. And then
How long does it, like, do you dedicate a whole day?
Sometimes I call it the Himalayas because there are piles of like, because it's sorted. I will say to the kids, I did this last night, I'm washing grays. Does anybody have grays?
Grays. How
Yeah.
many colors do you have that you sort into?
Do you want to know?
Yes, for real.
I have whites, 2 piles of darks. I have grays.
Why?
And then there's like bright colors.
Why grays?
And
though?
sometimes grays and the bright colors, because it's usually like underwear and stuff, that can all go
What
together.
are the 2 darks?
There's like, well, sometimes I'll do navies and blacks together, but I wear a lot of black clothes, so I usually have like a full load of black.
I feel like you have made work for yourself.
Oh my
No,
God.
guys, it makes your clothes last longer.
I don't know. My clothes have lasted just as long.
I still have things from university.
Do you guys like spot, like stain, like spot
Yeah,
check? Okay.
I got
Occasionally.
the sprays.
The only
X
thing
sprays.
I put any more attention to are all the lovely white baseball pants that we have.
Yeah,
that
I
is
don't have that
the only
stuff.
thing. I soak those in a tub with like OxyClean.
Yeah.
Because they're stains.
You have to
Yeah.
because they're white baseball pants.
That's so funny. I will, if anything is new.
I can't
just
even
so you
imagine
know-
throwing everything together.
Well, because if anything's new, I'll wash it separately just in case.
Yeah.
Oh, I just
Get
wear
out.
it right from the store. I just put it on my body.
Yeah.
See, 59% of people are with me.
Half of them.
You are listening to Your Morning, the podcast, where we bring you some of our favorite conversations from our show every single week. You can join us live on CTV every weekday, 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern, 7 to 10 a.m. Atlantic on CTV, CTV News Channel, or on your CTV News app. Lilo and Stitch was a box office hit back in 2002, becoming an instant classic for many young fans and families. Fast forward 23 years later, and we get to experience the magic of the film all over again, except this time in live action. If you don't know the story, after losing her parents, Lilo meets Stitch, an alien from planet Turo, who becomes her best friend and reminds her of the meaning of family. It's a great story. Anne-Marie had a chance to sit down with two of its stars, Tia Carrere and Courtney B. Vance.
First of all, I had to say to you that I was surprised at how emotional. I knew I was going to laugh, but I didn't know I was going to cry. Are you getting this reaction from a lot of people?
We've heard that from so many people. The journalists that we did the junket with in LA, and we're like, good, we touched their heart. That's the most important thing.
That's one of the things that most folks said about when we were doing the interviews. People were touched emotionally. We were all surprised. I was surprised by it when I saw it. I got just a lot.
It's right here.
Yeah.
Listen, I have my own questions, but we thought, let's put these questions to the fans. So we had some young fans of Lilo and Stitch send in their questions for the both of you. Let's take a look at Autumn's question.
If you could play any other character in the movie, what would you play?
Oh, boy.
Hey, stop.
Okay.
So Autumn wants to know from both of you, if you could play any other character, who would you
what
play?
do you want to do? Where are you going?
I said I wanted to play the part of Tutu. I actually did want to play it in the movie. They're like, we're going in a different direction for Tutu, but I thought to be that gangster woman on the ATV.
On the ATV?
Coming over the mountain, that's who I'd want to play.
That's a good, I kind of would like to do that too, but I think I would go, I like Lilo. I want to be Lilo. I loved her, when she was sitting there and the other girl secretly did something to her and she was like, you better not. And she pushed her off the stage. I love that feeling. And then, of course, the people say they don't like me.
I wish I was Lilo when I was a young actress. That little girl is a powerhouse. She knows who she is.
Just before our next question, I want to talk about her. This young woman who plays Lilo is captivating. She cares, and this is, I understand, her first big project.
First one.
But unbelievable emotion and range, and she's funny and touching all at the same time. What's she like on set?
The family surrounds her and loves her. She's so loved.
Yeah.
It's so beautiful to see.
It comes from that strong foundation of the ohana that she has around her.
Yeah.
Ohana is everything. All right, here is young Nola. She's got another question.
Hi, Tia. Hi, Courtney. What is your favorite part in the movie?
What is your favorite part of the movie?
Oh.
Well, yours? Yeah. My favorite part of the movie was, because I injected it into the first film, was they asked me how I would say goodbye to Lilo, and I said I would sing Aloha Oi, which is a song of love and farewell written by Queen Liliuokalani, that getting to sing that in the first movie and have that revisited in this with the girls just makes me so happy.
And I probably would go, knowing the journey that I took, Cobra Bubbles took from being the hard authoritarian, at the end of the movie, he's the one that says that you have my word. I will take care of and watch over this family unit and watch over this thing, 626. So, yeah, that's my favorite. Thank you. Great question, baby.
It was a great question. Finally, we've got Elliot's question here.
Hi, Tia. Hi, Courtney. If you had a day with Lilo and Stitch, what are the 3 things that you would do?
If you had a day with them, what would you do?
What would I do with Stitch? You go first, because it's a hard one for me.
It's a tough one. Probably, I couldn't, you can't take him in public, because you can't take him to the baseball stadium.
Or anywhere, really.
Well, you could take him there after he becomes part of the family. He's part of I would take him to the grocery store
You take it really in your food?
And I would have him undo the entire grocery store and then apologize.
Oh my gosh, I was gonna say he cost you $100,000 in grocery fees.
Yes.
I would take him and do like chores. Like if I wanted like an entire backyard cleaned, I'd say, okay, let's make it into a game. Yeah, destroy all the grass and then have it hauled away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You have to set him on that task.
You want to redo the backyard.
Yeah, exactly.
So you destroy it.
Put him on demo crew.
Right,
yeah,
a demo crew.
He would be great in demoing the house.
Crew. That's it.
Yeah, I'd
So
save so
demo a
much
whole
money on my
floor.
renovations.
But you wouldn't want him to demo the building, but
No,
just the floor.
Just focus him, and this is the one area I want you to tear apart.
Yes, tear apart this floor here.
Yeah.
Got it. Or this apartment, not the next apartment.
Or dig a hole in that tree, I need a kayak, you know, something like that.
I mean, he
He'd
could
be
do
great
it.
at
We've
that.
seen it in the film. He can do it very quickly.
He'd make a mean sandcastle, too, if I took him to the beach.
He could
He
dig.
could destroy a mean sandcastle. Not my sandcastle.
I want to thank you both for being here today. I also want to thank our young journalists for sending in their amazing questions. Those were fantastic.
We know it's not an easy thing to do, but setting boundaries in life is necessary. And our next guest says putting down boundaries with our kids and kids in our lives, that's important too. In fact, saying gentle no's to kids can not only help your own mental health, but it can strengthen your bond and empower those kids too. Vivian Maraki, who's a parenting expert and author of Parenting Through Divorce, joins me now with more on this. Great to have you.
It's so good to be here. Thank you.
Okay, so as a parent, we know there's a lot of pressure to have happy kids, to have happy lives, and to please our children. And I think my generation in particular has fallen into this trap of trying to be like the perfect parent and not setting boundaries well. So set us up. Why is it important to set those boundaries?
Yeah, so I think first of all, perfection, pressure, all of those are very real right now. And boundaries are actually a really great way to ease off of perfection, ease off of pressure. Parents are under pressure to be perfect, but the thing is that I try to say to a lot of my parents is you don't have to be perfect. It's not about perfection, it's about presence. Children don't need to learn perfection and more of that pressure from us. Instead, what they need most is our presence. And part of boundary setting is actually teaching them that we matter too. It's modeling for them that we can say no to the things that aren't right for us, say yes to the things that are, and help them to thrive into the future.
I love that. We have a society that is very much a participation ribbon society where everybody wins. And in everybody winning, there's not a lot of boundaries being set. And sometimes it's okay to say no. You might be sitting at home thinking, well, why don't you just say no? It's not as easy as that. So what does that look like? How do we say no?
Yes, so I think something that comes up for parents for younger children is body boundaries. So we all have had that experience where our kids are on us and we just feel like, I wish I could get off, you know, and have a little bit of time for myself. And in those moments, something that we can gently say with our children is, right now, my body needs a little bit of space. I love you, I want to have a hug later, but just give me a minute, mama space, and then we'll re-engage. Another option is also time and space. So, you know, we might be having a bad day. We might need a moment to recenter. And in those moments, we can do the same thing. It's like, I'm having a hard time right now. I just need a minute to process. Just like you processed your big feelings, I'm gonna process my big feelings, and then I'm gonna have this conversation with you after.
Vivian, what would you say to someone who hears that and thinks, why do I need to give them that explanation? Why can't I just say no? Why can't I just be firm about it? What would you say to that?
That's a really great question. So the thing is that when we're not well, our children notice and they pick up on those signs. And children don't know how to associate it with something external to them. They make a conclusion that there must be something wrong with me. And so what we want to do is, instead of having them fill the vacuum, we fill the vacuum. So we tell them, I'm not good. It has nothing to do with you. It's actually that's something that I need to deal with. And that's why we want to explain it to them.
God, that simple shift just like resets an entire lifetime of that child, then not having to work through all of that as they become older. So what happens when no doesn't work? There are a lot of times you say no, you even use that gentle language with children, and it just doesn't work. What do you do then?
So oftentimes the reason it's not working is because our children are so activated themselves. Their nervous system is in fight or flight mode, And in those moments, often what I suggest to parents is, number one, just give it a break, give them the 60 to 90 seconds. And the reason we do that is because we want their nervous system that's flooded with all the neurotransmitters saying that they're not safe to just flush it out and then have that time to come back down, and then we can re-engage. So that's number one. Number two, we engage with the senses. So something that I do with my children is I either will go in and give them a really tight hug to trigger the sympathetic nervous system, or I help suggest and walk them through the deep breathing exercises. Take a deeper breath, let's lengthen the exhale, and that can help to de-escalate. And then they come back into that mode where we're not going through the brain, because the brain is really not online at that time, it's through the body. So we help them reset through the body. And then at that point, we acknowledge their feelings. It looks like a really big thing that you're experiencing right now. I understand that this is really hard, but I will be a better mom with you, and I'll have a better conversation or engagement if I have a little bit of space. And then we restate the boundary again, very gently.
I'm hearing all of these tips, and I'm like, you know what? These also apply to adults.
It absolutely does.
We can use them with each other. Vivian, thank you so much for this. This was great.
My pleasure.
Five years ago, the murder of George Floyd by a Minnesota police officer ignited a powerful global movement calling for recognition, justice, and change.
We are not deterred. We are recommitted. So do whatever you're going to do with the Department of Justice. We will not turn back. Justice for George Floyd. Say his name.
Over the weekend, marches and vigils sprung up across the U.S. to mark the date. Demonstrators took aim at White House-led cuts to DEI programs and police violence. Joining us this morning to reflect on where we stand, what still needs to change, is journalist and author of The Skin We're In, Desmond Cole. Good to have you back.
Good morning, Anne-Marie.
5 years after George Floyd's death, and I still remember that sound of him calling for his mother as he was dying. It was that cry that was a tipping point. When you look back, Desmond, over the last 5 years and this arc and trajectory, really globally that people have been on, but focusing specifically on North America, where are we at right now in terms of systemic racism and awareness and action?
I think we saw one of the biggest global movements, certainly in my lifetime, against police violence. And there was a lot of momentum to talk about anti-Black racism and policing, and we've slid back since that time. That's how I feel.
The latest stats show that police killings are on the rise, from 1,000 in 2019 to 1,200 in 2024. Why do you think meaningful reform is taking so long?
Because the state doesn't want meaningful reform, because after George Floyd was killed, the demonstrations, the sustained protest movement that lasted for months was so hard to ignore that I think politicians felt like they had to implement some kinds of changes, which they did. There were some changes to use of force, to chokeholds, to different kinds of policies in the United States. But the desire to continue to police all people, particularly the poor, particularly the homeless. George Floyd, we know, was somebody who was using a $20 counterfeit bill, right? The desire to police people like that in American society didn't change. And so we can't expect systemic change when America still has this desire to monitor, surveil, police people because they're poor, because they might use drugs, etc.
Police services will say, look, we broadened our recruitment. We've brought in more people of color. Has that made a difference? Has that made a change?
I've been reading reports since the 1980s in Canada saying that the problem with racist policing is that there aren't enough people of color on the force. The problem with sexist policing is that there aren't enough women on the force. We've been saying that in Canada since the 1980s. That's not the problem. The problem is who's being targeted, not who's doing the policing. The same groups of people, Black and Indigenous people in particular, are still being targeted. Poor people, people who use drugs, as I mentioned, despite who is wearing the uniform.
So where does the flip for that change come from then?
So in this country, we had a report last year from the Ontario Human Rights Commission that said that Black people continue in Toronto to be discriminated against in terms of racial profiling, in terms of systemic bias. And what we need to see are approaches that don't prioritize force. Doug Ford just said that he wants to give more weapons, but he won't say who, to possibly transit cops, possibly different kinds of security forces, to expand the potential for use of force and death. We have to do the exact opposite. That's what's missing.
What are your concerns if we continue on this trajectory we're on right now in 2025?
Well, we know where this leads. We know, like, we talk about George Floyd so much in this country, but if I told your viewers the names Moses Irerhi or Regis Korchinski-Paquette or so many of the people who have died in this country, we don't talk about that at a national level the way that we talked about George Floyd getting killed in another country. So I also think it's incumbent upon us in the media to look, like 6 people of Indigenous background were killed in the span of about 3 weeks last summer. That didn't become the national sensation that George Floyd being killed in America did. So we all have a responsibility to remember that this is not over because that movement happened. That movement was the reason for the changes that occurred. I would give credit to all of those people who demonstrated, who wrote to their legislatures, who got politically involved for the first time in their lives. That's why change started happening. It doesn't stop though. Like, we have to continue focusing on the bigger picture.
I want to talk about that change, Desmond, and something that people are following in headlines, both sides of the border, and that is those improved initiatives and awareness around EDI or DEI. Right. And this backdraft that's come, right? This rollback and this cutting that's come. And whether it's loud by big companies or it's quiet, it's happening. Yeah, go ahead and say what you were going to say.
Just, you remember when Trump was accusing Haitians of eating dogs and cats? Things like that are an explicit invitation to police Black people, saying that they are criminal, saying that their very presence in a community
crime.
Continues to be criminal, right? And so I think we all know where this goes. And I think the problem is confronting the idea that's been put into Canadian society, in our case, that if you don't police like this, people aren't going to be safe. That the only way we can have safe streets is if the police are out and allowed to use as much force as possible. The problem is they're using force against people who are out on the street homeless. They're using force against people who are using drugs. And the money that we are spending every year increasing our police budgets, that could be going towards housing. That could be going towards the drug rehab that Doug Ford and the federal conservative politicians say that they want, but don't implement when they get into power. We have to make choices. We have to actually make different priority choices about where we're going to spend money and what safety looks like. Because safety does not, to me, look like more people in uniforms with more weapons on our transit system, in our parks, in our public spaces.
To your point, and here in Canada, when you see more policing, when you see more uniforms on the street, I think the reaction is you feel less safe.
Well, it depends who you are, right? Some people have never had an issue with the police. Some people feel always that the police are there to protect them and to watch out for their safety, right? But we know in this country, given the history of this country, first with the colonization of Indigenous peoples, that the police have never been here to serve everyone equally. The RCMP was set up in large part to control Indigenous people whose land the Crown wanted for itself. This city that we live in has had a police force that has focused heavily on communities where Black people live, where poor people live. It's not an accident. I think that's the other thing, Anne-Marie. We have to stop treating the outcomes of racist and harmful policing like they are an accident. We have to acknowledge that they are purposeful, and we have to shift our purpose to something else.
We're so glad you joined us today. If you want more of these great conversations, and I know you do, don't forget to download or hit subscribe to Your Morning, the podcast, on the iHeartRadio app or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, we'd love for you to watch us live weekday mornings on CTV, CTV News Channel, or the CTV News app. Start your morning with us.